All right, Chapter 4, APID, rail yards. 4-1, safety, general. Right on the railroad subjects ever joking assorted with this is possibly the identifiable railroad man is large watch chain. This was not always before the advent and cost of the Stanley Railroad watch with a somewhat cumbersome chain to hold it in safely. A more gruesome means of the identification existed. Observation for the absence of the fingers from either both hands. Years ago, this was common among the railroads and the train service of the hiring. So officials frequently looked at the application's hands for the muted verification of the experience. Claimed that the application formed the crude link and pin coupler, the chief of the culprit, with the extent eventually a replacement of the automatic car coupler contributed more than anything else of the virtual elimination of the hand injury. Therefore, the years still steps, grab irons, ladders, running boards, and that has been added or improved with the resulting elimination of the manner of the hazard of the cause of the injuries and death. A rail yard, however, this is still the place of the potential personal injury, property damage, likely the automobile, modern roads, railway, stock railroads have been reached to the higher degree of mechanical safety. The remaining of the contribution must come from the user's values of the safety. The rules that have been written extensively. Safety command pains have been waged, and discipline has been enforced for the rules of infraction. Since still some injuries of death occurs, the certainly language of the railroad relapse at one point into the case of the double out of the uncertainty. Personnel will take the safe of the course of the rule 108 TM 552 100. Place the final responsibility safe directly on the individual railroad workers. Most think constantly of safety of the men working in and on and around the moving the engine. Cars must concentrate on what they are doing. Although the railroad provides the working equipment, comprehensive safety rules, the workmen are responsible for their own safety and must depend on others apply these rules for them. However, all workers should be properly instructed and safe. Methods of doing the work of their jobs. Workmen should familiarize themselves with the appliance of the piece of the equipment before they're using the item, making certain that the items are good. 4.2 the yards. Ensuring safety of the busy rail yard where there are many activities taking place at the pause. There's many problems. Some of these are discussed in the following subparagraph. Several methods used to reduce the magnitude of the problems are explained in A. Light and the railroads have contributed materially to accident reduction lighting classification yards. Numerous floodlights, such as shown in the figure 4.1, such lighting system is possible to see clearly at night. The 20 to 30 cars length, nevertheless, is vital necessary for the yard workers to look both ways before stepping across the track. The slowly more moving particular a new empty one makes light noise. Yard workers must now not depend on the sense of the hearing detected approaching cars because of the mechanical noise of the locomotives. B. The clean pathway, the space between the track often is caused. The 6 foot must be clear of the coal, the scrap, the other debris, the brake alignment, lighting of the moving of the cars, picking up a clean level spot of the land. Every small piece of the gravel can turn a man's ankle and possibly cause them to fall in the darkness, and doubt exists. And about the condition of the ground man, the brake should hold his lantern down and looking at the ground before the alighting. The obstruction switch stands the natural obstruction on every then switching leading of this fishing clear and its existing of the man is standing on the bottom of the step of the moving of the car, providing that he stands erect. He should never look backward when passing a switching light. He applies the older yard to those designated to build in the last 2 decades. If the brakeman wants to get off the moving car, he should do so immediately after passing a switch. He will then approximately 50 feet of unobstructed ground on which to alight use. Portions of the auxiliary yards, the switch lights are often removed to avoid the cleaning of the surfacing of the lanterns. Night crews work around unlighted switches. Most exercise extreme caution to determine that each switch is correctly line before it is passing. Likewise, brakemen must carefully not be stumble of the other switch stands, other obstructions that constitute hazards to the men riding the side of the car, including the tunnel walls, the bridge piers, and the permanent structures built into the track. These are generally marked with the signals with the red close clearance or no clearance are usually equipped with red lights. D. The clear tracks for telltales. Your car must be shoved far enough in the clear of each of the track of the preventing, limiting, or following of the lead of the clearance. When the engine is shutting off the cut of the cars down a lead, the brakeman riding on the first of the car cuts must observe the clearance of each of the track before passing it, but he must also be on the constant lookout for the cars being shoved toward him. A crew at the opposite end of the yard may be coupling a track, accidentally shove the cars out of the lead. The brake riding and the cut cars should be prepared to the signal. The engineering stop should attempt to align the switch correctly before the cars run through it and damage it. Overhead of the obstruction consists of bridge trestles whose clearance is insufficient for remaining at the top of the car. Such obstructions are generally protected by telltale small ropes suspended vertically and from a cable extending across the track. The maximum of a telltale is 12 and 12 inches below the obstruction so that it strikes the upper body of the main bridge riding on the top of the boxcar. The hanging rope striking on a man riding on the top of the clearing car means that once that thing gets down at once. Okay, 4.3 movement of the equipment. Cars and locomotives are moving logically, presenting the two chiefs of the causing the accidents of the railroad rail yards. Main rules that have been written to cover specific incidents. Experience has been proved to be dangerous. Other incidents with no specific rules readily applicable to presumed to be covered by the broad scope of the Rule 108 quoted in paragraph 4.1. The following subparagraph discusses the sum of the ways accidents and injuries can be avoided. Precautions yard personnel can reduce the chances of personal injuries to themselves. Other numerous ways. Some of the important ones are as follows. Never crawl under the cars unless your duty is required at and then only with the track has a blue flag protection as outlined in the paragraph 404. Do not cross from the moving of the standing or the use of the ladder whenever possible. Whenever necessary to board a moving of the draft of the car's board of the forward end of the car. Forward end is the direction of the draft is moving. Never the board of the engine never board an moving engine by stepping onto the front foot board from the head ahead. Catch the rear at the end of the engine passes. Do not stand on the front board of the engine traveling in the forward direction. If you must ride to the draft of the cars for a considerable distance, they have a choice of the types of the climb inside of the empty gondola board of the flat car, tank car with the full length of the running board. When necessary to ride at the top of the car, the signal of the engineer, the station yourself in the center of the car, never at the top front of the end of the front end. When prepared for break yourself against the sudden starts of the stops. When riding at the top of the car, never ride with your hands in your pockets. Sit too easy to be thrown off the balance. Do not sit on rough or splintery running boards. Do not ride between the cars, particularly on the end of the sill of the car loaded with pipe or steel, shifting logs or similar freight subject and to shift. Maintain a consistent lookout of the open top of the car load from the coal, coke, slag, limestone, or other bulk commodities that may be due to slide and fall when the car is bumped. You can see anything that you can think of may lead to danger. Stop the engineer first and investigate later. When the signal is engineer, make it certain that there are no engine, but your own can see the signal. Do not step on the rails crossing the track. Never walk along the top of the rail. Wet steel is slippery and dangerous. Never forget, particularly after the dark, in which the direction engine facing a single signal to proceed at the back of the has a different meaning based on whether the engine is facing you or ahead of ways or some other railroad's particular in form. Contrary signals meaning come towards me, go away from me. When the signals are used, making the difference which way the engine is headed. All lighting knowledge of the particular correct method of getting over the moving in the vertical important. The dangerous incorrected haphazard lighting. The increase of the course of the speed moving cars following the method applies to all speeds of the standing on the sill step. With often stir up with the facing of the car moving in the right or the left should follow the hit of the ground first. If the car is moving to the left, the right should touch first. If the short of the foot opposite to the direction of the travel must be one of the touch ground first. This holds the truth no matter which side the train is on, the rider is on. In addition, the drafting of the traveling comparatively faster, safer landing can be made leaning on the direction opposite to the direction of the movement. The best rule is in the connection, however, is do not attempt to get it off until you know you can land safely. 4.4. The blue signal. When a red light is no signal, railroad, regardless slightly, a blue one probably commands a shade more respect. It means that the cars or engines are so protected much that the couple or to be moved daylight. In daylight is usually a square metal flag painted blue mounted on a 5-foot metal rod stuck in the ground at each end of the track. At the end of the blue lantern light is attached to the black flag. Attached to the flag, one of the yard classification of the blue signal means that the car inspector is working under the cars of the track. Railroad crew men respect the blue signal for what it is. a single imminent potential danger. Only the worker who displays the blue flag are authorized to remove it. The typical blue signal on the some railroads combines the derail device of the blue flag and the clamp of the rail locked in the padlock derails the car switch and any against it with a type that is not used in the same railroads required that the blue flag track is which switch line with the lead of locked of the padlock prevents the switching crew from the adverting switching car of the track thus protected. 4-5. Bleeding the air. Another damage of the car inspector must be guarded against the danger with the rules are strictly specific deals with the rule repairs to the air brake system before attempting the repair to the air brake system on the car. The training containing the air of the car must be cut out from the remainder of the train and bled free of the air. This is done by closing the angle cocks on each end of the car and bleeding the air releasing valve on the reserve for the particular car. The angle cods are cut off the valves of the car airline. If this is not done, inspectors changing the brake shoes, adjusting the brake linkage would more likely to be injured. And if another inspector had no reason to open an angle cock on either end of the train, if an air burst anywhere in the train, it would result in an emergency application of the brakes that would cause serious hand injuries. Okay, 4-6, safety rules. The following safety rules quoted in the pamphlet 551 applicable to all transportation railway service personnel that are rules designated to protect the workers, safeguard the government equipment. Personnel must be looking in both directions while and coming out of the building adjacent to the tracks before crossing the tracks and walking of the parallel tracks that they must as clear as the duties permit the walking against the flow of the traffic, keeping a lookout of the both directions, approaching the cars and trains and the locomotives. B. Passing the locomotive of the car between the cars from any purpose with either moving the coupling is to be made is prohibited before passing between the standing of the locomotive. Personnel will give the hand or lamp stop signal wait acknowledgement unless they have clear understanding with the engineer as protection against the unaccepted movement. C. The personnel will not pass between the cross tracks adjacent to the standing cross the locomotive without looking to see if it is safe. When the locomotive cars trains are passing on, the personnel must stand on the path sufficient distance to avoid injury from the projection of the equipment of the falling objects. D. Every precaution will be taken to prevent the fires due hold in a match light torch from the open light of the heated objects of the near the gas tank, the reserve container, or the storage battery. Either stream cautions may be exercised in disposal waste of other flammable material. Personnel engaged in such duties will keep properly covered to avoid burns. G. Goggles appropriated to the kind will be worn performing operational hazards of the eyes. These include, but are not limited to, such things such as chipping, grinding, drilling, welding, cutting metals with shears, accelerating courses, riveting, and handling. A. Acids, spray paint. Personnel watching and working enough to such operation to be exposed for their hazard must also wear the prescribed goggles. Scuffling, wrestling, any other kind of horseplay while on duty is prohibited. H. Ear coverings with interfacing with the hearing will not be worn while working on or about tracks. I. Stepping in the front of the moving car's locomotive to adjust the draw bar or knuckle lock and pin. Attempting to do was so when the engine are about to come together is prohibited. When making a coupling uncoupling yard, the service personnel will face the direction of the movement, standing clear of the track of the feet of the well braced one-handed operating left lifter of the other hand of the lower grab and the iron as a brace and prepare to give the proper signal when it's necessary. Okay, when you uncoupling an air hose, both angle cocks must be closed and live air hose can kick like a mule. Take a firm grip on the hose at the coupling end and pull upward until the air starts to escape. Hold it in the position until most of the air in the hose between the angle cocks has escaped to the atmosphere. Then hose will part readily. 4-7. The safety department. Virtually every major railroad today has a safety department headed by the manager or superintendent. He is assisted with the number of agents who go over the railroad division following a set of the schedule, teaching the doctorate and the safety agents that travel one for the division on a division to another, talking to the shop crews, road gangs, the maintenance of the way and maintenance of the equipment, closely observing the working habits of all the employees. Should the agents come across anyone using the safety methods that showing the offender the diplomatic as possible, the correct way to do the job, to tell why and what it should be done whenever the accident occurs. The member of the safety department is sent to the scheme and interviews the principal involved with the improper supervisory, determines if there has been an infraction of rules with working the practice in common one, no adequate safety rules exist. Superintendent of the safety council property authorities to formulate a rule. The primary objective of the safety department is to teach employees to think, act, and safely on the job, as well as away from it. Safety rules and there are stressed, but on the safe basis of which they urge amended to be alert and a danger to use the reason of the power to prevent accident. Safety among the military personnel and local workers is in a theater is, if possible, even more important than it is in the operation of commercial railroads. The prevention of accidents and enforcing the safe working methods helps to assure the accomplishment of the mission of the minimum loss of man hours, creating economy of operations. 4.8. The summary. Throughout the years, railroad yards and equipments have been improved to reduce the hazards that cause the damage and injury to death. However, the railroad is still placed with the potential personal damage, injury, and property damage. Like modern automobiles, highways, and railway yards, equipment have been reached to a higher degree of mechanical safety, but final responsibility for the safety must be placed on the user because of the complexity of the activities taking place in the yard or involving the men and equipment. Have safety rules outlined with the TM 55200 and DAPM 551. Must be strictly obeyed in transportation, railway service, and personnel. The purpose of these rules are to ensure the safety of the efficiency of the practice of the military railway yards. To interpret, they execute the rules successfully. One must understand the purpose and the intent of the rules. No one must know that the rules, but also not only must one know the rules, but also be able to apply the proper one in the given situation. A railroad must be alert of the danger and the using of his reason and ability to prevent accidents. Volume of the rules of the written extensive safety campaigns waged unless each of the individual assumes the responsibility for the safety, injury, to death, and will continue to incur. Each person must apply the safety rules for himself rather than depend on others to apply them for him. The final responsibility for the safety rests directly on the individual. 4.9. Conclusion. A railway yard classifies the assembly of the car's departure and provided the progressive combination of the yard with provided these three functions at additional facilities such as roundhouse, turntables, and repair tracks. Certain yards is running the tracks necessary. Switching leads are increasing the efficiency of yard operations. All activities of the yard are responsibility of the yard master. He supervises all the personnel who work in it. He makes the switch from the yard clerk track check, instructs the switching crew to how to process the cars, and he also keeps a journal that represents all the time the accurate pictures of the status of all the working cars and tracks. Cars inspectors, each car should on every the train enters the track, enter the yard, each of the every train before it departs. Whenever any defective car is found and cannot be repaired immediately, it is sent to the repair track. Yard operational supervision is a job that requires a lot of know-how of the yard of experience from the yard. Your study of this text should have gained an insight into the complexity of the task and maintaining the smooth and orderly progression cars and freighted through the railway yards. In a military railway operation, the theater congested with the cause traffic jam that causes the result of logistic failure, and it is important, therefore, the transportation officer be familiar with the yard operation and how they relate to the overall job of the railroading. And that's the end of the rail yard AIPD course. Thank you.